Hello everyone, welcome back to my little corner of the internet. I hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to be running you through my favourite books that I have read this year. I know it's only the beginning of December, so I'm not going to be able to include the books that I read in December, but I'm going to be reading stuff off my Goodreads list, so if you do want to see what books I end up reading in December and what I rate them and stuff, then I'll leave a link to my Goodreads link down below, and I'll also leave a link to the previous years that I've done these videos as well, so you can see books that I've read through other years as well. So the first book that I read this year was called Fates and Furies by GROFF, and it was definitely one of my favourite books that I have read throughout the year. It kind of reminds me of the book, or the movie I guess, of Gone Girl. I didn't know this at the time, but the book is split into two different chapters. So the first half was told from Lotto's perspective, and then the second half of the book is told from his wife Mathilde, I think is how you say her name, is told from her perspective. So it's interesting to see kind of like the overlap on stories told by their different perspectives, and then also kind of background stuff from the other person that we didn't get to see. So yeah, I wasn't expecting that twist to be halfway through the novel, but I did really enjoy it, and I rated it 4 stars on Goodreads. In April, I read a book called Breaking Dead by CORRIE Jackson, and it was the start of a series surrounding the main character Sophie Kent, who is a journalist. In this specific book, she is investigating the murder of a model, and it's around the time of London Fashion Week, and she's kind of dealing with some demons from her past as well, and then this case of the murdered model kind of goes above and beyond what she expected, and she's almost like investigating the crime along with the police. And it has a big twist at the end that I didn't see coming, which are the kind of books that I really like. You'll probably find a pattern in this video as well. I prefer like thriller or action or crime novels, and if a book or even a movie has like a really predictable ending, I feel really frustrated because there's like so many other ways that it could have gone. So this book, as I said, had a twist that I wasn't expecting, so again, I rated it 4 stars on Goodreads. This video isn't even sponsored by Goodreads as well, but hey Goodreads, if you're watching, hit me up. The next book that I read in May is called Black-Eyed Susans by Julia Heberlin, I think is her last name. And this again was one of those suspense novels that I was talking about. It also kind of reminded me of some of Gillian Flynn's other works, and not necessarily Gone Girl, but more like Sharp Objects and Dark Places, which is one of my all-time favourite books. It starts off about a girl called Tessa who, when she was 16, was found almost dead in like a field of these flowers that they called Black-Eyed Susans. The story is then told from a couple of decades later, where she is a single mum to a teenage girl, and stuff from around the time of the crime start happening again, like the flowers get planted outside her windowsill and stuff, and she feels like maybe she put the wrong man in jail and that the actual killer is still out there. So it's like a suspenseful novel while she's trying to figure out if like her killer is still at large, sort of thing. It kept me guessing the whole way through, and it had a good ending as well. The next book that I read is called Frozen Charlotte by Alex Bell, and it was a really good mix of like suspense and thriller, and also just like a bit weird and creepy as well. It dealt with a girl who went to visit and stay with her cousins for the summer holidays, and all of this like crazy stuff happens. I don't want to give too much away, but I'm trying to remember what happened in this book and tell you guys about it without giving away any spoilers, so if you do want to read it, it's not spoiled for you. But there are these dolls, which are like where the Frozen Charlotte part came from, that kind of just like make weird stuff happen as well. So it's a bit of a different kind of suspense novel that I've read before. There is this like weird love story subplot as well between the main girl and like her guy cousin, which is really weird, and I definitely think the book could have done without that, and it still would have been just as good. In July, I went back and I reread one of my favourite books that I read for the first time in 2014, I think, called We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. When I first read this book, I feel like I talked about it in a vlog, but I was so gobsmacked by the ending because it was like completely unexpected, and it happened so quickly that I didn't really like know what to think or how to feel. So I really knew that I wanted to reread it again, and I'm really glad I did, because there were all these like hints and other things throughout the book that I noticed that the first time I read it I like passed over, or because I wasn't expecting it, I just didn't think there was anything to them, if that makes sense. But it surrounds a girl whose family own this island. They all go there with their cousins, and there's like 4 houses on the island that they all live in. She hasn't been there for a couple of years, and something happened like since she's last been at the island, that she doesn't quite remember, and no one seems to be telling her what it is. And the story kind of follows her trying to figure it out, and then obviously she figures out what's happened, and like that's the big end and the reveal. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about this book. People say that they didn't like it or that it was really stupid, but I really liked it, so I'm definitely recommending it. Back in September, I read a book called The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter, and it was definitely one of my favorite books that I have read this year, obviously because I'm putting it in this video. But oh my gosh, this book just drops you like straight in the deep end straight away. It involves two sisters who are called Charlotte and Samantha, which I find funny because that's mine and my sister's names. They are sitting in their kitchen with their mum, and this altercation happens and their mum dies, and then all of this insane stuff happens to them. So you hear that part of the story and how like brutal that is, and then it flips forward to another couple decades when they're a bit older and they're kind of like reliving stuff from their past and like implications from what happened all those years ago. Each sister goes from being quite close to almost like completely separating, and both of their lives are kind of falling apart for very different reasons, but various things happen that bring them back together, and they kind of like renew their sisterhood and their friendship, I guess, which is like a nice part of the story. But yeah, the rest of it is just so much brutality is going on, and it's a bit heavy, but it's also one of those books that you can't put down. So that is it for some of my favorite books that I have read this year. As you can tell, the kind of main theme is like the crime and suspense novel, because I just find them really easy to read, and I have downloaded a few more of them to read this month as well, so if I'm not talking about them on Goodreads, I will probably share them in a vlog as well, so keep an eye out for that. Let me know down in the comments what books you have been reading or loving this year as well, because whenever you guys do recommend me books in the comments throughout the year, I always go and look them up and see if they're the type of book that I would like, and I'll add them to my like want to read list. So that definitely helps me out for selfish reasons, but hopefully might help some other people out as well who want some book recommendations. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next week. Bye!